Good morning, boys and girls. And today we will be looking at the topic detecting our environment. And to detect our environment, we need to use our senses. And those senses are the sense of sight, the sense of taste, the sense of touch, the sense of smell, and the sense of hearing. Now, let's get into our lesson. Now I'd like you to take 1 minute to observe the picture, then you will tell me what is going on in the picture. Sorry. Good, I trust that everyone would have observed the picture. Yes, Michael, can you tell me what is going on in the picture? You see a man shivering and he's wearing thick clothes, so you assume he is cold, okay? And one is fanning and you're saying he's hot. Okay, and which one of our senses involves what is going on in this picture? The sense of touch. Correct, Susan. Thank you for that. So today we will be looking at the skin, because the skin is where we would feel touch if someone is to touch us, or a change in the temperature as you are observing in the picture. Now, before we begin, let's look at the objectives of our lesson. So the objective of our lesson is to define the skin, see the function of the skin, identify the different layers of the skin. So by the end of the lesson, you'll be able to say what is the skin. You'll be able to list the functions of the skin, and you will be able to state the different layers of the skin. Now, what is the skin? The skin is the surface of the body that interfaces with the external environment. That means the skin is the layer we see here, right? And the skin is the largest organ in the body, which gives us the sense of touch. Now, if Susan is to touch me here, I would feel it. And why would I feel it? And you will learn why later on in the lesson. Let's move on. The function of the skin. Now, what is the function of the skin? Anybody? Yes, Eric. It allows you to feel. Very good, but there is more than one function to the skin. Let's examine it. Now, the skin allows us to protect our body from injuries, thus germ and harmful ultraviolet rays that comes from the sun. So the skin acts as a cushion like. Okay? Next, we have the skin regulates our body temperature, and this is so that when the place is hot, we produce perspiration, or sweat as some of you may call it, to cool us down, right? Next, we have perform excretory functions by producing and getting rid of sweat. Okay? Next, we have the composition of the skin. Now, what is the skin made up of? Does anyone know? Let's find out. Now, the skin is made up of 3 layers. We have the epidermis, the dermis, and the hypodermis. The epidermis is the outermost layer of the skin, and it provides a waterproof barrier and creates our skin tone. So the part you see here is our epidermis, because we get to see our skin color by looking at this. Next, we have the dermis, and the dermis is located beneath the epidermis, and this consists of tough connective tissues, hair follicles, and sweat glands. Lastly, we have the hypodermis. Now, the hypodermis is also known as subcutaneous fat. Okay, and this is the layer of the skin beneath the dermis. Now, let's further examine the layers of the skin. We have a diagram of the skin. Now from this diagram, we see our epidermis, dermis, and hypodermis. We are also seeing that our hypodermis consists of the blood vessels, connective tissues, fat. We are seeing that in our dermis, we have the hair follicles and the sweat glands. And our epidermis, which is the upper layer of our skin. But we can learn more, so here is a video to teach you more about the skin. This video is done by my friend Chloe and her friend, the nerve.
The epidermis, the dermis, and the subcutaneous fat.
I don't know who gave you your elevator operating license.
This is like a skin cell factory. New cells are being born at the bottom all the time and slowly making their way up to the top. It takes the cells about 4 weeks to get all the way up, and by the time they finally make it to the surface, they're dead.
So I'm like a skin cell graveyard?
Precisely. And you're shedding dead skin cells all the time.
Wow, what else is up here?
The epidermis also contains melanin, and it's what makes skin darker or lighter. The more melanin a person has, the darker their skin will be. Skin comes in many beautiful colors, like my lovely lavender sheen.
I've heard melanin also helps protect you from the sun.
It sure does, but even melanin can't do it all, and that's why we wear sunscreen to keep from getting burned.
So, what has the dermis done for me lately?
Let's go find out!
Ooh, look at all this stuff down here. I see blood vessels, and that's a nerve ending over there. I know nerve endings send messages to the brain, but what is the skin trying to tell the brain?
Well, it's a touchy subject.
Okay, I'm going to guess that terrible pun means that this has to do with the sense of touch.
Smarter and smarter you get. Think of all the things your skin touches. Rough tree bark, a cold snowball, a nice cup of hot chocolate. Nerve endings read all of these sensations and tell the brain and nervous system about them. Then the brain and nervous system decide if the body needs to respond.
So if I touch something too hot, my nervous system tells my hand to move away from it?
Exactly.
Wow, I never knew my skin was so smart.
And it doesn't just feel hot or cold. Your skin also detects other touches, like tickling.
Hey, what are those things?
Those are your beautiful, your glorious, your fabulous sweat and oil glands. They keep you wonderfully sticky and sweaty.
Ew.
Yes, but a good ooh. Oil glands, or sebaceous glands, make a sticky substance called sebum that moves up to the epidermis, where it creates an oily layer that protects and moistens your skin. Sebum also makes your skin a little waterproof.
But what about the sweat glands?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. The sweat glands start here in the dermis, where they make sweat that travels up.
Slowly, please.
Up to the epidermis, where the sweat comes out of holes called pores.
And the last stop on the skin layer express is the
Subcutaneous fat.
A little warning next time, maybe?
Oh, fat. Sweet fat.
Why do we need fat?
The body needs some fat to cushion and help protect your bones and organs. This layer of fat also helps keep you nice and toasty warm.
Nice. What else is down here?
See that thing over there?
I know what that is. That's a hair follicle. So the hair starts all the way down here?
And goes all the way up here.
Ugh, I bet the hair does it at a more reasonable speed.
Ooh, I forgot. Near the base of the hair, there are little muscles called erector pili that tighten when you're cold and pull the hair so it stands up straight. It's called the pilometer reflex.
Fancy word.
And that's what makes all those little bumps pop up on your skin.
You mean goosebumps?
The very same. Remember those blood vessels we saw in the dermis?
Yes?
These ones!
Yes, those ones.
When you're cold, they make themselves really small to keep all your nice warm blood far away from the cold air outside your skin.
Good. I trust that everyone would have find that video very interesting and informative and fun. Okay, so now it is time for the reflection to see what we would have learned today. So first we would have learned what is the skin. And we learned that the skin is the outermost layer of the body. And we also learned that the skin is the largest organ of the body. Then we move on to look at the functions of the skin. And we learned that the skin serves to regulate body temperature, didn't we? Okay, next we would have moved on to looking at the different layers of the skin, and we said the different layers of the skin are the epidermis, dermis, and hypodermis. And we also stated that hypodermis is also known as the subcutaneous layer or subcutaneous fat. We also look at the functions of those layers. Now we said the function of the epidermis is that it manufactures cells and it contains melanin. And melanin is the substance that gives our skin the color. Next we said that the dermis is the place where our sweat glands are located. And our sweat glands keep us cool when the place is too hot. And lastly, we look at the hypodermis, and we said that the hypodermis consists of hair follicles, and it also has connective tissue. Then we would have watched an interesting video telling us more about the skin and its layers. Good, so that is what we would have looked at for today. So since we would have reflected on what we would have learned, I have an activity for you. And this activity consists of 4 questions. And these questions are, what can we do to care for our skin? So, in caring for our skin, I need you to tell me what can we do if our skin is very dry, okay? Or if our skin is very moist. Next, I want you to define the term excretion, because the skin serves as if the skin disposes of a waste called sweat, right? So, and that process there is known as excretion. So I want you to define the term excretion so you can be familiar with it. Next, we have what is another name for sweat. And I would have used that word earlier in our lesson. So if you were paying attention, you would know the answer immediately. And lastly, this one is going to be very difficult. Nonetheless, I want you to give it a try. I would like you to tell me, what is sweat made up of? We know it's a waste, but what is inside this waste? Okay, now I'd like you to take a few minutes and answer these questions, and when you get back, we will discuss. Good. I trust that everyone would have answered these questions. Now, I would like you to take a picture for me and send it in our Google Classroom where I can see them and I can mark them. And I will make corrections if you would have made a mistake. Now, in closing our lesson today, you know that before we go, we must have homework. And homework is for further learning. Homework here, the picture is not very clear. However, the picture in our classroom is very clear, so I would like you to answer the questions, and I would like you to submit same in our Google Classroom so I can have a look at them. Now, since you would have looked at the skin and we would have gone through what is the skin, the function of the skin, the composition of the skin, I would like to say thank you for participating in our class today, and I will see you in our next integrated science class. Goodbye.